How much did it cost to buy the loyalty of Hitler's top generals? The answer might shock you. In Nazi Germany, a secret fund known as the Führer's Fund was used to bribe high-ranking officials. Today, we will expose the hidden system of corruption that kept Hitler's inner circle loyal. We'll reveal how this secret fund grew from a modest beginning to millions of Reichsmarks by the end of the war. Throughout history, military leaders have been rewarded for their service and loyalty. Ancient Rome and medieval kingdoms offered public honors like triumphs, land grants, titles, and estates. Adolf Hitler, however, created a secret slush fund known as Konto 5, or Account 5, to quietly buy the allegiance of his top generals in Nazi Germany. Hitler often rewarded his top commanders with lavish gifts, including free estates, luxury cars, large cash payments, and lifetime tax exemptions. Hitler's system operated in the shadows with no grand ceremonies or public announcements. High-ranking Nazi officials received substantial monthly payments funneled through discreet channels. This secretive approach allowed Hitler to maintain tight control over his inner circle while avoiding scrutiny from the German public. Konto 5 originated in 1933, the year Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. The fund, managed by Hans Lammers, the chief of the Reichschancellery, began with a modest budget of 150,000 Reichsmarks. The fund grew dramatically as Hitler consolidated power and Germany's military ambitions expanded. By the end of the war in 1945, Konto 5 had reached an astonishing 40 million Reichsmark, reflecting the increasing number of officials on the payroll and the escalating costs of maintaining their loyalty. The Nazis abolished the requirements for parliamentary checks and countersignatures by the German finance minister. This allowed Hitler to spend the funds entirely at his own discretion without needing any additional approval. Prior to receiving any funds, the officers were required to meet with Lammers, who made it clear that future payments would be contingent upon their loyalty to Hitler. They were cautioned that while the Führer may provide with one hand, he could just as easily take away with the other. Lammers emphasized the secretive nature of these payments, advising the officers not to discuss them with anyone and to maintain minimal written records. The funds from Konto 5 were deposited for the duration of the officer's lifetime, and the payments did not cease upon retirement. The amounts paid out through Konto 5 were substantial. Field marshals received monthly payments that far exceeded their official salaries. Additionally, on their birthdays, these high-ranking officers could expect to receive checks for 250,000 Reichsmarks, a small fortune by any standard. All these payments were tax-exempt, further sweetening the deal. The secret bribery system had far-reaching consequences. It fostered a culture of corruption at the highest levels of the Nazi regime, where personal gain often superseded military strategy or moral considerations. Generals who might have otherwise objected to Hitler's decisions found themselves financially obliged to remain silent and compliant. Hitler wielded Konto 5 as a powerful tool to consolidate his control over the military and government. By making high-ranking officials dependent on his personal generosity, he ensured their loyalty and obedience. This system of financial rewards and punishments allowed Hitler to bypass traditional chains of command and exert direct influence over key decision-makers. This system of financial rewards created a powerful incentive for Nazi leaders to remain loyal, even as the war turned against Germany. The promise of continued wealth, even after retirement, ensured that many officers prioritized pleasing Hitler over making sound military decisions. The Battle of Kursk, a crucial battle during the war, reveals how corruption influenced military strategy. In the spring of 1943, German forces sought a decisive victory after their defeat at Stalingrad. The Kursk salient presented an opportunity, but German military leaders were divided on the proposed offensive. Heinz Guderian, a brilliant tank commander known for his outspoken nature, initially opposed the plans for Operation Citadel. He argued that German forces were insufficiently prepared and that the Soviets had fortified their positions. However, Guderian's stance changed dramatically after receiving a substantial bribe from Hitler's secret fund, a tax-free estate in Poland. This lavish gift effectively silenced Guderian's criticism of Hitler's military leadership. The impact of this bribery on military decision-making was significant. Instead of maintaining his position, Guderian approached Joseph Goebbels, asking him to persuade Hitler to reconsider the plan. The bribery system created an environment where personal gain often overshadowed sound military judgment. This lack of dissent contributed to poor military outcomes throughout the war. At Kursk, the consequences of this corruption were evident. The German offensive failed, resulting in massive losses. The Soviet counteroffensive that followed pushed the German army back, marking a turning point on the Eastern Front. The system of bribery penetrated deeply into the Nazi leadership, compromising not only military strategy, but also the moral integrity of the German high command. The Battle of Kursk stands as a stark example of how financial incentives can disrupt military decision-making, leading to catastrophic consequences on the battlefield. Hitler's bribery system influenced senior Nazi leaders, with some examples being especially shocking. Field Marshal Wilhelm Ritter von Lieb's story demonstrates how financial incentives silenced moral objections to atrocities. As commander of Army Group North in 1941, Lieb witnessed the massacres by the Einsatzgruppe near Kaunas, Lithuania. Lieb was somewhat disturbed and sent in critical reports about the events. In response, General Rudolf Schmundt, Hitler's aide responsible for the dispersing of the payments from the Konto Fund, reprimanded Lieb for his critical reports, reminding him of his monthly payments and warning him to cooperate fully with the SS in future special tasks. The message was clear. Continued financial rewards depended on unwavering support for Nazi policies, including the final solution. Lieb's transformation became evident when he received a 250,000 Reichsmarks check as a birthday gift from Hitler in September 1941. This substantial sum effectively silenced any further objections from Lieb regarding the Holocaust. Franz Walter Stahlecker, commander of Einsatzgruppe A, later reported that Lieb's Army Group North had been exemplary in cooperating with his men in the Baltic states. When Field Marshal Fedor von Bock was dismissed by Hitler in 1941, his first concern was to contact Rudolf Schmundt to ask whether his dismissal meant he would no longer receive payments from the Konto Fund. Grand Admiral Erich Raeder's case reveals the insatiable greed the system could encourage. Raeder became notorious for his increasingly outrageous demands, even requesting that Hitler cancel taxes on the interest he earned from his Konto Fund payments. His constant requests for more money and land became a source of irritation for Hitler, showing how the bribery system sometimes backfired. General Walter von Brauchitz's situation exemplifies the extent of Hitler's willingness to use public funds for personal favors. In 1938, when Brauchitz decided to divorce his wife to marry a younger Nazi supporter, Hitler intervened by using taxpayer money to pay Brauchitz's divorce settlement, the amount between 80,000 and 250,000 Reichsmarks. This systemic corruption fostered a culture of complicity among Wehrmacht officers. Many who initially expressed reservations about Nazi atrocities ultimately accepted large bribes, which silenced their objections. The promise of tax-free payments, lavish gifts, and lifetime financial security proved too tempting for many to resist, even in the face of unimaginable horrors. As the war progressed, this system of financial rewards and punishments became crucial in maintaining the support for the final solution. Officers who might have spoken out against this instead remained silent, their compliance bought with blood money. The result was a military hierarchy that not only tolerated but often actively facilitated the Holocaust. This web of corruption and complicity had far-reaching consequences, prolonging the war and deepening the tragedy of the Holocaust. The collapse of this bribery system in the final months of the war would reveal just how dependent Nazi leadership had become on Hitler's financial incentives. The July 20 plot of 1944 marked a critical turning point for Hitler's bribery system. In the aftermath of the failed assassination attempt, Hitler's paranoia led to a harsh crackdown on perceived disloyalty. Many officers associated with the plot were abruptly cut off from their Konto Fund payments. This punishment extended to the families of prominent officers like Erwin Rommel, Franz Halder, Friedrich Fromm, and Günther von Kluge. In the case of Field Marshal Erwin von Witzleben, his family was compelled to reimburse the entirety of the bribe funds he had received. The repayment was deemed necessary, as the money had been granted to him as a token of allegiance to the Führer, which he obviously didn't have. As Germany's defeat loomed, Hitler's system of loyalty through financial incentives began to crumble. The Allied advance exposed the fragility of bought allegiance, causing high-ranking Nazi officers to prioritize personal survival over military strategy. Hans Lammers, the administrator of Konto Fund, received frantic messages from officials seeking to secure their bribes in accounts beyond Allied reach. Nazi officers employed various tactics to protect their wealth, such as moving funds to neutral countries or hiding them under false names. This scramble for financial security revealed their true priorities. The bribery system's influence even extended to surrender negotiations, with some officers factoring their financial futures into capitulation talks. After the war, the payments caused substantial embarrassment for those who received them. During the Nuremberg trials, Walter von Brauchitz testified falsely, denying that he had accepted bribes, despite bank records showing regular payments of 4,000 Reichsmarks per month from 1938 until the end of the war. In 1948, General Franz Halder also testified falsely, denying any involvement in bribery, but remained silent when presented with bank records proving the contrary. In 1947, Erhard Milch admitted under oath to accepting payments, but claimed that it was compensation for his former executive salary at Lufthansa. Hitler's secret bribery system had lasting consequences beyond the war. Corruption undermined military strategy and worsened the tragedy of the war. High-ranking officers often prioritized personal gain over sound decisions and morality as they became tied to Hitler's choices, even when they defied any military logic. This dark chapter shows how corruption can weaken military effectiveness and a nation's moral foundation. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. We hope you found the video informative. If you enjoyed learning about today's topic, make sure to check out our other World War II videos. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more World War II content. And we'll see you in the next one.